How to tee off using a 3-wood. It's a common question I get asked, should I be setting up like a driver? Should I be setting up more towards like an iron or a hybrid? So there's a few things that you have to be aware of when teeing off with a 3-wood. First of all, what's your reason for teeing off with that club? Is it because you're looking for accuracy? You're on a tight hole and you need that accuracy and you're scared to hit driver? Well, just to let you know, most people's drivers are just as accurate as their 3-woods on average, which means you're just as likely to hit the fairway with it and you're just as likely to miss the fairway with it. And think about that. If you're hitting 3-wood and you get your variation that misses the fairway, then you're going to be 20, 30, 40, 50 yards back from what your driver might be. 20, 30, 40 yards back from where your driver might be, but in the rough, now you're putting yourself at danger of not hitting the greens, being as close to the pin in 2, maybe a recipe that you don't want to head towards. So before we get into how to tee off with a 3-wood or a fairway wood off the tee, just think about why you're using that club. And also, before we get into the other golf swing tips to help you improve your fairway woods off the tee, if you're enjoying the channel and liking the content, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button, turn that bell on so you don't miss any of my new videos. So first things first, how high should we tee our golf ball up when teeing up on the tee? Well, you do have options and we'll go through them as the video goes on, so stay tuned for that. But generally speaking, we want to have our standard 3-wood off the tee to have half of the golf ball above the top of the club head. Now, just chucking the golf ball on the floor will be harder for you to hit your 3-wood. So be careful of that. And we'll talk about the results of that as the video goes on as well. You won't want to be teeing the golf ball up ridiculously high like your driver. You're going to see some real funky shots going underneath it. It'll be a real skill to find the middle of that face when that ball is teed up so high. So make sure that half of the golf ball is above the top of your club. So how high you tee that golf ball up will have an effect on that strike location. And teeing the golf ball up a little bit is also going to help your delivery. And this moves us on to the question of, should I be swinging my 3-wood or fairway woods off the tee like my driver or more like my irons and hybrids? Well, it's close to a driver. Setup wise and things like that, it's a lot closer towards what a driver would be than an iron. So angle of attack with a 3-wood, you want it to be sort of a robust club, so you can use it off the tee, you can use it on the fairway. And generally speaking, for amateur golfers, you want one swing for everything because it's less confusing and you don't need to worry about mixing stuff up, doing different swings for different situations. So with a driver, you're going to be hitting hopefully 2, 3, 4 up on your driver, depending on what club head speed you are. With irons, you're going to be hitting down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees, depending on what club you've got in your hands. Now, a 3-wood, depending on whether you're on the tee or on the fairway, you want your angle of attack to be level to slightly down. And this is where people get caught up with hitting 3-woods because they don't have much loft. And lots of golfers don't have enough club head speed to get that ball in the air, so they try and help it up. Trying to help it up in the air means you're going to have a low point that's before that golf ball. You'll catch the ground, you'll hit tops, you'll hit fats. Whereas we want to be hitting level with our angle of attack to slightly down. And I'll show you the angle of attacks in just a minute. So once you've got your tee height, you've got your understanding of how you want to deliver that club, so it can be used in all sorts of different situations, like on the tee and on the fairway. You then want to think about setup. Now, I said that setup and things are more towards driver, and they are. So generally speaking, when I'm on the tee, I push my ball position a little forward of center with my fairway woods. That's going to help get my angle attack where I need it to be. So a real simple drill to make sure that you're getting ball position correct is set up with your feet together, and then I want you to go a small step and a little bit of a bigger step on your trail foot. That will put your ball position a tiny bit forward of your sternum, not all the way up towards driver, which is more towards your sort of armpit area, we're going more around my logo. That'll get your angle of attack around level to maybe slightly down. A little side note, if you know what your angle of attack are and you're an extreme golfer, so you hit a long way up on the golf ball with driver, or you hit a long way down with golf ball with your driver, then you might have to play around with ball position a little bit. If you don't know your angle of attack, start off with this drill and work from there. So now I'm comfortable that I've got the right ball position to tee off with my fairway wood off the tee. Now we move into the setup. The setup is very much like a driver. I'm going to be putting some speed into this club, so I need a wide stance because of that stability, that wide base to help with strike and applying that force into the ground to get that speed. So when I'm setting myself up, inside of my feet are around shoulder width apart. It's going to give me a steady base. It's going to allow me to put those forces into the ground to help with that club head speed. Tilts of your spine will be very similar to driver as well, because that ball position is heading forward in your stance. It won't be quite as extreme, but you will have a slight tilt. All my swing thoughts are exactly the same as driver as well. So let's hit one. Ball position first. I'm going to go a little step and a big step with my trail foot. That will put my inside of my feet shoulder width apart. It's going to put my ball position not as far forward as driver, a smidge inside, which is going to change my angle of attack. I've got my tee height, which is going to help with strike location, not teeing it too high, hitting those sky balls, which you sometimes see off the tee. And then I'm doing everything that I would with my driver swing. I'm applying some speed. I'm pushing in the ground the same. My feelings are all the same. But the tee height and my ball position are going to apply that club to the ball slightly differently, giving me those different angles of attack and slightly different launch conditions. Oh, that was a ripper. So there you can see, angle of attack 1.7 down, my path is pretty straight, my club head speed is way up there, I'm carrying it 255 like it was a decent shot. Angle of attack 1.7 down. Now, I'm someone that struggles with getting the driver up on my angle of attack. So you might see that I go a little bit more down with my fairway woods than what I mentioned earlier. Again, that's where you have to play around with those examples of ball position. But 1.7 down isn't far off. 110 mile an hour club head speed, you can see there that I'm putting some serious speed into this free wood, because if you don't, you're going to struggle with launches. You need to have some speed with your fairway woods off the tee. So there's the basics on ball position, setup, how high to tee that golf ball for a standard 3-wood off the tee. Let me know in the comments down below if that helps or not. But that's not all I've got for you with teeing off with a fairway wood. I've got more options. Let's go back to tee height. I said that with your standard 3-wood off the tee, you should see half of the golf ball above your club head. Now, the other option that I do is teeing the golf ball off the ground. Now, unless you've got some speed about you, I probably wouldn't recommend this too often for most golfers, because your margins of error are coming down and it's going to be a harder shot to strike. But having this as a weapon in your golf bag can be essential. For a right-handed golfer, when there's trouble down the left-hand side, like a lake, out of bounds, big tree lines, whatever it might be, teeing off from the ground can really help you stop turning your golf ball from right to left. So when you tee the golf ball up with 3-wood, I know mine was a slight fade, but it's very easy to get that ball turning from right to left. Hitting it from the ground, you're gonna see, hopefully, more of a left to right shot as a right-handed golfer, which, like I said, can be a massive weapon. So when you're next practicing, give this a try and see if your ball flights are slightly different between the one off the ground and the one off the tee. Setup wise for the one off the ground, marginally different. And again, make sure you put it on a nice tuft of grass if you're going to be in it off the floor, off the tee. I see people just chuck their golf ball down, not really care where they're putting it, and then all of a sudden there's a nice chunk of grass behind the golf ball. It's in a little hollow, and they're not thinking about where they're placing that ball on the tee. Once you've got that sorted on the tee, we need to think about our setup slightly differently again. My ball position moves marginally back. I said at the start you would go a little step and a big step with teeing off of the tee, whereas when you put it on the floor to tee off the tee, you want to be going a slightly bigger step with your front foot and a similar size step with your trail foot. That will put ball position back a little bit. That's going to make angle of attack go down a little bit more. And this is where I would only recommend really the sort of higher swing speed golfers do this, but try it, see how you get on. It might work for you, especially if like your most lofted fairway wood maybe is a 5 wood or a 7 wood. It'll 100% work for those kind of clubs. Again, I'm not swinging any differently to my driver and my longer clubs because I want to put that speed into it. So set yourself up. That ball is now on the floor. I'm going to go a bigger step with my front foot and a similar size step with my trail foot. That will put my ball position back a little bit from what it was off the tee. That's going to make me hit down a little bit more on my 3 wood. Again, you might see numbers around 2-3 down with this 3 wood that I'm going to hit, but again, I've got the speed that will be able to launch this golf ball. If you haven't got that speed, what I did before, 1 or 2 down, will probably work better for you. So ball position goes back. I'm going to aim a little bit up the left this time because generally speaking, this type of shot is going to have a bit of a cut, which is great again for when you've got trouble up the left-hand side for that right-handed golfer. Another great strike. I'm hitting down on it more. Look, I'm now 3.7 down. I've got more of left to right movement. My path is more out to in, but that's just because I'm aiming more up the left-hand side. My swing isn't moving more out to in. That monitor doesn't know where I'm aiming. So 3.7 out to in because of my aim up the left, but I am hitting more down, and the carry at 254 is very similar to the one off the tee. Would you expect that? Little bit more fade on that second one. Massive weapon to have on the golf course when you need it. There's 2 options there for you for hitting off the tee with your fairway woods or 3 woods. Option number 1, definitely your go-to and your standard. Option number 2, play around with. Maybe use that as a 5 wood or a 7 wood option. 3 wood, I would definitely recommend teeing off of that tee to make it easier for you. Let me know if this helps in the comment section down below. And if you are enjoying the channel and the content, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button, turn that bell on so you don't miss any of my new uploads. And here is to ripping those 3 woods off of the tee. Oh yeah. Thanks all for watching. See you in the next one.